Good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everyone doing today? A happy new year to everyone. A happy new year. Happy 2021, man. I hope everyone is excited as I am to jump into this new year. Just leave 2020 behind and we enter into this new year. I know a lot of people already made the New Year's resolution. I want to wish you all the best in achieving them. But good morning, good morning, good morning. For first time listeners, this is Gregory Wilds coming live to you from Houston, Texas, with his inspirational morning walk. Inspirational morning walk in the morning. So I get some exercise, walk a few blocks, and I just share with you guys what I'm inspired to, guys. Again, I'm in my vehicle today because today on Mondays, my son have his basketball practice. And this area where the gym is at, where is the best for me to get some walking done. The internet is kind of in and out. It just kind of went out a little bit there. So I'm going to sit in my vehicle here where I got a good signal, where I'm for sure I got some signal here, and I'm going to do my stuff here, then get back to the walking. But yes, good morning again. Okay, guys, I know this is the new year, early into the new year. A lot of people have made the New Year's resolutions and everything like that. And I know some of those on the New Year's Eve service, sometimes some of the pastors or preachers are saying the bigger the seed you donate, the bigger your donation you make. Be coming into the New Year's, the bigger your blessings and all the good stuff. But I just want to tell you, we can't bribe God to get anything. We can't bribe God. As that my teacher listened to Kevin Ewing from the Bahamas there would say, don't think you could sin all year and then the last day of the year give God a big bribe and he gonna wash away everything and then you get the big blessing. So don't buy into that. If you give that donation because you feel God lead you to get a donation, all well and good. But don't do it because you think the bigger you give is the bigger the blessings you're going to get. Don't really buy into that. Don't buy into that. Because what God said in Hosea 4 and 6, this is what you need to get your blessings and get your breakthrough. Right? Here we said, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. For the lack of knowledge, they're destroyed. He said, because you rejected knowledge. If you reject knowledge, because this is, for example, you getting knowledge here. If you reject knowledge, I also reject you as my priest. And because you have ignored the law, remember I tell you, everything is about the laws. We got to know these laws. We got to participate in them. Because you ignore the law of your God, I also will ignore your children. So if you ignore the laws, I can also have to ignore you, right? And again, in Isaiah 5 and 13, Isaiah 5:13, this is what he said here. He said, therefore my people have gone into captivity because they have no knowledge. Again, he's stressing knowledge. Without knowledge, we're not going to achieve the things we need to achieve. So you got into captivity because I have no knowledge. Remember, knowledge is some of these things that we talk about, these generational curses, all these different type of evil forces, spirit of anger, spirit of poverty, spirit of confusion, spirit of complaining, the controlling spirit of the Jezebel spirit. If you don't have no knowledge of these things to identify them, to come against them, he said, you're going to be in captivity. These things going to have you in captivity. And you wouldn't know because you don't have no knowledge about them. And you're going to, Mr. Keith Tellman, how are you? And you're going to be trying to do all we're doing, giving all your best seeds, making the big donations. Some people tell you the bigger the donation you make. No, it's knowledge, right? The knowledge is what's going to set you free. Because in Proverbs 11:9, now we're telling you how you're going to get your breakthroughs and how you're going to get your deliverance. Proverbs 11:9 part B said, but this true knowledge, the righteous will be delivered. True knowledge, the righteous will be delivered. So what I want to talk to you today about, I want to talk today about share some more knowledge, right? He said true knowledge, we should be delivered. I want to talk today about altars because a lot of the things we can be talking about when we're reading certain things, I want people to understand the power of an altar, what an altar mean and the power of it. So when you see the term altar, when you're reading your Bible, know what it is. It's a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing, and you need to know and get a good understanding of altar. So I'm going to try my best now to give you a good understanding of what an altar, right? An altar is simply a place where divinity meets humanity. In simple words, where a human interact with a spirit. That's what an altar in a nutshell is. A place where a human interact with the spirit. People can have stone altar, tree altar, all different type of altars. But the basic thing about an altar is where a human interact with the spirit. You remember your churches that have the altar rail and everything like that. That's altar made unto God. So when you go there and you're praying, who you're praying to, right? What you're praying to. I hope you're not praying to the priest. I hope you're not praying to no human, right? You're praying to God. So that's it. A God is what? A spirit, and you are what? A human, right? So human interact with the spirit. So sacrifices are like the soul of an altar. So and you don't have an altar without having sacrifices, right? You don't have an altar without having sacrifices, right? So what makes an altar powerful is not the material content, but the quality of the sacrifices altered on the altar. So no matter what type where you make your altar, altar don't really have to be anything special. Anywhere where you're making those sacrifices and stuff, that's your altar. But sometimes people might make the altar out of something, make it a little high up, however you choose to make it. But it's not what material you make it, expensive. If you make your little thing with marble, that's not what it is. It's the quality of the sacrifices. You can't have an altar without sacrifices, right? So if the quality of the sacrifice that defines and determines and confirms the spiritual connection between the raised altar and the heavenly realm. So the bigger the sacrifices you make is the bigger is the more things you can demand from the altar, or the more you'll get from the altar, in simple terms. So like an example, remember King Solomon. He's the wisest man on earth, right? He's the wisest man on earth. But remember Solomon, if you remember, I can go through that scripture. It's 1 Kings 3:4-5. Solomon, on this particular altar here, 1 Kings 3:4-5. The king went to Gideon to offer sacrifices, for that was the most important high place. And Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offering on that altar, right? The altar, Ronette, how are you doing? Tracy Hammer, Tessa Hunt, thank you guys for checking in. We're talking about altars today, right? So the bigger the sacrifice is the bigger request you can make, right? So that's what makes an altar powerful. More powerful, the sacrifices, the quality of the sacrifices that were made on that altar, right? The sacrifices offered to God upon any altar is a mirror of the quality of your heart. So if you're making a sacrifice unto God, right? The bigger your sacrifice is, the more you're showing how much you love God, pretty much, right? The more you're showing how you love God. It's the depths and gratitudes towards your hearts, right? So that's why, remember, it's debatable in the Bible which was the first altar was raised. They said the altar with Cain and Abel. I remember when God accept Abel brought a better offerings, right? He begged, and that's why God accept Abel offering him, and Cain got upset and killed Abel, right? Because he brought the fattened portions from one of his firstborn. He brought the best to God. He gave God his best, when Cain just gave him a few little crops that he probably didn't want. He keep the best and he give God, because he used the man with the farm and doing the planting and stuff. So he didn't bring his best crops to God. But Abel brought the best, his fattened portions from the firstborn, and God accept that offering, and he get upset and he killed God. That's in Genesis 4:3-8. He said, in the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord, and Abel also brought an offering, the fat portions from some of the firstborns of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offerings, but on Cain and his offerings he did not look with favor, right? Because he didn't bring the best to God. So that's what an altar is. So there's a principle of an altar. Exodus 20:24, right? God saying, if you make an altar of earth for me, and on it you give your burnt and peace gifts in worship, your sheep and cattle. Let me read that again. Make an altar of earth for me, and on it give your burnt and peace gifts in worship, your sheep and your cattle. In every place where my name is remembered, I will come to you and bring blessings, right? So he's saying, God's saying, this is a principle in altar. If you make an altar unto me, I'll visit it and bring blessings. So in the reverse, guys, remember everything is a reverse. So why do you think a demonic altar? If you make an altar unto the devil, he can visit it with bring curses, right? So let's go and see these altar here where all of these great men made altar and who showed up at the altar because they made an altar unto God, and see who showed up at this altar, right? So Noah made an altar, right? In Genesis 8:20-21. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord. He took of every clean animal and every clean bird and give burnt gifts in worship on the altar. Then the Lord smelled a pleasing smell, and the Lord said to him, I will never again curse the ground because of man. So he made an altar unto God. God compelled to show up. God said, if you make an altar unto me, I can come and bring blessings. So in this case, God said, you know what? I'm not going to do this again. I'm not going to end this world by flood again. And he make a promise to him that he's not going to do that, right? So I want you to see, make a raise altar unto God. God showed up. Remember, I tell you, was the altar is a place where a human interact with the spirit, right? Genesis 12:7. Then the Lord showed himself to Abraham and said, I will give the land to you and your children and your children. So Abraham built an altar there to the Lord who had shown himself to him. And this is an altar in reverence he built to him, right? Abraham built an altar. I'm showing you all of these great men in the Bible to build altar in communication. If they want to hear from the Lord, stuff to build an altar. So in 2 Chronicles 7:4-5, right? This is what it's saying here in King Solomon. This is why King Solomon was such a powerful man. We talk about the altar is the quality of the sacrifice on the altar. Hear how much things King Solomon sacrificed. In 2 Chronicles 7:4-5. Then the king and all the people offer sacrifices to the Lord. King Solomon offered 22,000 cattle, 120,000 sheep as sacrifices to the Lord. So the king and all the people dedicated God's temple, right? In all, this he sacrificed 22,000 cattle, 120,000 sheep, right? And this is another altar here for King Solomon. This is when God visited him in a dream in 1 Kings 3:4-5. The king went to Gideon to offer sacrifices, for that was the most important high place, and Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offering on that altar. On that particular altar, he offered 1,000 burnt offerings. Well, let me show you what's going to happen here now. At Gideon, the Lord appeared to Solomon during the night in a dream, right? And God asked him, ask for what you want me to give you. Because Solomon made such a big offering. God said, you just ask for whatever you want. And you know the story. Solomon said he wanted wisdom to lead his people. And God said, okay, because you didn't ask for, the life of your enemies, and you didn't ask for all these things, so you can get the wisdom, but I can give you a lot of riches. And that's why Solomon got what he got. But it all started out on the sacrifices he made on the altar. And who showed up? In all these cases, they make an altar unto God, and who showed up? God showed up and asked them, and always, whatever they asked him for, he would give it to them, right? Samuel 24, 2 Samuel 24-25, I'm going to show you the last one about David. And David built an altar there to the Lord. He gave burnt gifts and peace gifts. So the Lord listened to the prayers of the land and stopped the disease in Israel. So there was sickness and going on in the land. David built an altar. He want help from God. He built an altar. He put his burnt offering on there. He make his request. He prayed to stop the healing, and God stopped it, right, guys? So I'm showing you this. When you build an altar unto God, he's going to visit it and give you and communicate with you. Whether it's in a dream or whatever. A lot of these guys, you communicate to them in a dream. But I want to show you on the flip side, the devil used the same principle. And the next teaching, I'm going to show you a demonic altar and what goes on, because the enemy used the same principle. That's why these people, you're going to them for certain things, they can tell you, bring this, bring that, bring that, because it's an altar. You might see somebody talking to 3 in the morning. You see some people some time of the day or some time of the year, they're going to this 3 and they're talking like you think they're crazy. No, they're not crazy. That's an altar, and they're communicating with whatever spirit they sacrifice there. And like I said, the bigger the sacrifices, the bigger the powers they get. These demonic people, they go to altars to make these to get the powers. It got to be an altar. It got to be sacrifices made at that altar, right? So a lot of times, this, if you praying against something, you might hear you got to come against the altar, because the altars will got the power. The altars will got the power, right? There can always be a chief at the altar that orchestrating things, right? So you got to understand the power of an altar and what altars represent. So when we go on and do certain teachings, and when we use the term altars, you're going to understand what an altar really is. It's not just no little stone or no little brick or no little nothing. An altar is spirit controls altars. There's a spirit behind. When you talk about an altar, automatically know there's a spirit behind that altar. An altar is a place where a human being interact with a spirit. So altars are a powerful, powerful thing. When you hear the term altars being used, if it's being used demonically, that's a powerful thing. If it's an altar unto God, it's a good thing, that God is going to come and visit you and bring blessings. A demonic altar, the enemy is going to come and bring curses. So if you go to a demonic altar, know you're bringing curses onto your life. If you ever visit any one of those stuff and people tell you, bring this, then people reading those crystal balls and all of that, those are altars. You visit them to get a reading and see your future, you are bringing curses upon yourself. You are bringing curses, right, guys? So I'm going to leave that there. I just want to set a foundation, because some of the other teachings I'm going to, they can talking about altars, and I want you to get an understanding of what altars really are. It's a place where a human interacts with a spirit, right? So I'm going to show you in the next one a demonic altar and how it operates. And then so when we go on and we're using this term altar, you hear the term altar when you're reading your Bible, I want you to get this understanding and know what it means. And it's not just, oh, it's a little altar. Oh, we go to church.